Welcome to the third episode in a Legendarium series about Dante's Inferno. In this installment, The City of Dis, we will talk about Dante's journey through the 5th, 6th, and 7th circles of hell. Having journeyed through the first 4 circles, Dante Alighieri and his companion Virgil plunge into the 5th circle. There they see a tall tower on the bank, its pinnacle bursting with flames. The two men also meet the boatman Phlagius, who takes them across the River Styx. From the boat, Dante and Virgil see the wrathful and angry souls spending eternity fighting upon the river. Meanwhile, those with bad attitudes now really have something to sulk about, as the sullen are sunk deep into the putrid waters. There, Dante sees a man named Filippo Argenti. Historically, Argenti was a prominent Florentine politician who confiscated Dante's property after his exile from Florence. In short, Dante has put his personal and political enemy in hell. Unlike the previous sinners, Dante has no pity for Argenti and watches as the others tear him to bloody bits. Virgil announces that they near the city of Dis, or Lower Hell. A host of fallen angels demand to know why one of the living tries to enter Dis, and for the first time, Virgil fails to win them over. Upon realizing his only friend and guide has failed, Dante grows pale with fear. Though Virgil reassures the shaken Dante, his efforts are sundered by the arrival of the 3 Furies, half woman, half serpent. They call for Medusa to turn Dante into stone, and Virgil covers Dante's eyes to protect him. In a Deus Ex Machina, an angel approaches the River Styx, and the demons flee after the angel reprimands them for interfering with God's plan. This serves as a reminder that the powers of hell ultimately wither before God's grace. With that, Virgil and Dante enter the 6th circle. Yet Virgil's failure shows that they have entered a new and far harsher level of hell. After entering, they find themselves surrounded by tombs engulfed in hot flames. Within them lie the heretics, or those who rejected or corrupted God's word. Dante speaks with another fellow Florentine named Cavalcante de Cavalcante, the father of Dante's intimate friend Guido. He asks about his son, and Dante replies that Guido will be damned for holding God in disdain, just like his father. Dante also speaks with another fellow Florentine named Farinata, who belonged to the faction which drove Dante into exile. Yet Dante has sympathy for Farinata because the ruling faction later split, which prompted a second round of exiles that included Farinata. Though Dante pitied him, he clearly did not forgive Farinata enough to keep him out of his hell. Unlike the others, Dante cannot bring himself to pity the heretical. He comes to understand the perfection of God's justice rather than his own notions. As Dante and Virgil approach the 7th circle, they breathe in a stench so overpowering that they must sit at the tomb of Pope Anastasius to adjust to it. During their rest, Virgil explains that the last 3 circles of hell are subdivided into 3 smaller circles. Virgil explains that the 7th punishes violence. Dante defined violence broadly, with 3 smaller circles for punishing violence against one's neighbor, oneself, and God. Dante asks Virgil why these divisions of hell exist and why other sinners do not receive the same degree of punishment. After all, they too have acted against divine will. In response, Virgil reminds Dante of Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, which names 3 dispositions counter to heaven's will: incontinence, malice, and insane brutality. Incontinence offends God the least, says Virgil, and thus receives a more lenient punishment outside the city of Dis. The passage to the outer ring of the 7th circle takes Virgil and Dante through a ravine of broken rocks, shattered by the earthquake which occurred after Christ's crucifixion. At the edge, the monstrous Minotaur threatens them, and they slip past him while he rages to distraction. The outer ring houses murderers and others who were violent to other people and property. Here Dante sees Alexander the Great, King Dionysius of Syracuse, Attila the Hun, and many other notable historical figures. All have been sunk into a river of boiling blood and fire. A group of centaurs, mythological creatures that are half man, half horse, stand upon the bank of the river with bows and arrows. They shoot at any soul that tries to raise itself out of the river to a height judged too pleasant for the magnitude of his or her sin. Having done violence to whole nations, that violence is now revisited upon them. They are immersed in the blood they lusted for in life. The soul of an individual who murdered only one person stands with his legs in the burning blood, while the soul of a tyrant such as Alexander stands with his entire head immersed. Yet because of his reverence for ancient Rome, Dante curiously exempts Roman tyrants such as Julius Caesar and Sulla from this circle. After fording the river at a shallow stretch by riding on a centaur's back, the travelers continue into the 2nd ring. Virgil and Dante enter a forest of black and gnarled trees. Dante hears many cries, but cannot see the souls that utter them. Virgil advises Dante to snap a twig off one of the trees, and he does so. The tree cries out in pain, and blood trickles down its bark. The souls in this ring, those who are violent against themselves, suicides, have been transformed into trees. Virgil orders the damaged tree soul to tell his story to Dante, so Dante can spread the word back on Earth. The tree soul identifies himself as Pierre della Vigna, an advisor to Emperor Frederick who committed suicide when scheming courtiers befouled his name with lies. When Minos cast him here, he grew as a sapling, and then he is pecked apart again and again by harpies, who are half-women, half-bird creatures from Greek mythology. After the Last Judgment, their bodies will be hung upon the soul tree's branches so they can be reminded of the lives they discarded. Dante also encounters a bush soul who blames Florence's frequent civil wars on their accepting John the Baptist as patron and rejecting the Roman war god Mars. As such, the city is condemned by Mars to endless civil conflict. In this episode, Dante borrows from ancient Greco-Roman writers who tended to blame present circumstances on mythological events in centuries past. In a surprising act of compassion for such a sinner, Dante gathers the bush's scattered leaves and returns them before continuing his journey into hell. That wraps things up for this episode of The Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.